this is the second time that I'm presenting, or that this project is being presented, so I'm looking forward for questions and feedback. So we all know very well we are in Australia, and it's mainly predominantly a DC system. So many Australian retirees have a lot of flexibility in the decumulation phase of their decumulation of their assets. However, there's very little choice of retirement income products. So many, or 40% of benefits are actually taken out as lump sums. And in the remaining, the remaining participants, 76% of people actually take account-based pensions, and most of these people withdraw at minimum drawdown rate. The market for other retirement income products is very small. So you can see this graph is taken from the CIPA retirement income research briefs, and the third part. And you can see how annuity sales vary over time. What you can see is, first of all, the total annuity sales in current Australian dollars is quite low overall. There's also varying annuity sales by type. And what you can see, for example, is that, around 2007, 2008, the demand basically, or the market basically collapsed. And this was due to, regulation, a change in regulation for basically any benefit income or retirement income product could be, was actually taken into account in the needs test. You can see a recent surge, which is mainly driven by Challenger, the now only supplier of annuities, actively marketing annuities and trying to focus on the benefits of annuities. So there's not only the supply side issue, but there's also a demand side issue. And this demand side problem, or this annuitization puzzle, is a global phenomenon. So wherever people have the flexibility to annuitize savings, many choose not to, or choose not to annuitize the savings as much as would be appropriate in many rational models. So I'm citing here some papers of Brown et al., but there are many more that find the annuitization puzzle and that try to explain it. So factors that might explain it are bequest motives, but they can't explain the whole under annuitization. For example, there's a paper by Brown et al. As well that focuses on the framing of annuities. So if you emphasize the consumption and not the investment side of annuities, people prefer annuities more. But there's also just this huge complexity in annuities, that people do not seem to understand annuities, and that this complexity is making people not buying annuities. So the Australian government, since the Financial Systems Inquiry, has tried to focus now more on the decumulation phase of retirement instead of the accumulation phase. So they've published in 2018 a retirement income covenant, or a consultation paper of a retirement income covenant, and also in December 2018, a consultation paper on simplified standardized disclosures. So the graph that you can see is basically a timeline of what the government is now trying to get feedback on, but also trying to achieve to increase the choice in retirement income products, and also to make it more, this retirement income covenant is basically requiring trustees to focus more on retirement outcomes, which should then increase also the supply of different retirement income products. And what we are focusing on today is the simplified standardized disclosure for retirement products. So in December 2018, in this consultation paper, the Treasury has introduced information items and different fact sheets that we are testing here. So the questions that we are trying to answer is, does disclosure affect choice? And if yes, how? But also, do consumers actually understand the information on these fact sheets? As said before, annuities are complex products, and we know that people have, on average, relatively low financial literacy. And it's important, of course, if people want to make appropriate choices, that they then actually also understand what they might be buying. So as far as we know, we are the first to examine how different fact sheets influence the stated choice of retirement income products. That is mainly due to the fact that Australia is also very unique in that it has this strong accumulation phase, so that people are, or that employers are required to contribute with pension funds, but then that there is this flexibility in the decumulation phase and not much is being done. So for example, in Europe, where most systems are still DB systems, and if they are trying to introduce more DC type features to that pension plan, they're still quite focused on keeping this annuitization of the savings. So we do not only test how these fact sheets influence data choice, but we also test, as I said before, the understanding of information items and also the perceptions of products. We also contribute to more of the annuitization puzzle literature, because we test, as I said before, that we have the standardized disclosure and it might be able to reduce product complexity, or at least the perception of product complexity, and increase the product awareness. So what we did, we conducted 2 online discrete choice experiments. The first one in September and October in 2019, and the second one in November 2019. Overall, we have 1,007 participants. So in the first one, we had 902, and in the second one, 105. We screened our participants so that they had to be aged between 55 and 67 years. They also needed to have a super account that was, still in accumulation. So we did not allow participants to withdraw from this employer. Overall, we have 52% males in our sample. The average participant is 60 years old, and we found that approximately 58% are eligible for age pension, 23% are probably going to be self-funded, and the remainder is eligible for part age pension. So what did participants do in this experiment? They made 12 pairwise choices between 4 different products. And it is important to note here that we didn't give names to these products because we didn't want to, we didn't want participants to come into the experiment with their, already maybe biased knowledge or biased perceptions of products. So we just called these products A, B, C, D. So product A was an immediate lifetime annuity, which was inflation indexed. Product D actually was the account-based pension. So this is the basically standard ABP invested in a balanced fund and withdrawn at the minimum drawdown rate. Then we had 2 bundled products. So the first bundled product is a mixture between an annuity and ABP. So 80% of the money invested was invested in an annuity and 20% into an ABP. And our fourth product was a bundled product, basically a mixture between an ABP and a deferred annuity. So the income was annuitized from age 85 onwards, and before that, the ABP was supposed to give income. So we have measurements of these status choices. So we always gave them as at 4 pairs. We also tested understanding of the fact sheets and of the products. And we also have a variety of characteristics and preference of the participants. So think of financial literacy, numeracy, risk preference, time preference, etc. So what is actually on these fact sheets? The Treasury in their consultation paper in December 2018 has proposed 5 information items. So the first one is the average annual income, which should be net of fees and taxes. The second one is a product rating. And this product rating was then given more light by the Australian government actuary, that this in the paper that was published at the same day as the consultation paper. So this product rating basically measures combined downside risk, and this is a combination of 3 types of risk: market, inflation, and longevity risk. And they basically look at how these risks impact the income by these retirement income products, and then scale that back to a scale from 1 to 7, where 7 is most secure income and 1 is least secure income. The third item on these fact sheets is potential income shape. So what they do is, or what they ask for is basically a graph from where on the x-axis you have the age between 67 and 100, for example. And then you have 3 lines displaying the the worst, the average or median actually, and the best outcome. The fourth information item is access to capital. So this tells you how much capital you could access if the consumer decides to sell the whole product. So it is not about just accessing capital in between, but it's really about, okay, what if I want to sell my annuity? How much money would I get? And this is one of the aspects that the Treasury also proposed in this retirement income framework to basically liquidize money in annuities. And the fifth information item is the death benefit. So what happens if the consumer dies? How much money goes to the estate? What kind of income streams are still given out? Our experimental design. So we have 4 in between subject treatments. So these are the different types of fact sheets that the participants see. So we have a text-only treatment, where, well, as the name says, we more or less only have text on there. So we describe, for example, the product income shape, and we describe the access to capital and the death benefit. Then we have 2 fact sheets that are highly based on this consultation paper by Treasury. That's also why we call it Treasury Table and Treasury Graph. The difference between these treatments is that in the Treasury Table treatment, access to capital and death benefit are projected in the table, while in the Treasury Graph treatment, they are projected in the graph. And then our 4th treatment is the product security treatment. And this treatment we did in the second experiment, because we were wondering what happens if we don't have this very salient or rather salient product rating item, but just have the description of risks. And I'm going to show you these fact sheets in a minute. You can also see on this slide that beneath all the between subjects titles of the fact sheets, we have, well, these 2 buckets. And then that is said 6 pairs without income shape and 6 pairs with income shape. As you can recall, before I said that every participant did 12 pairwise choices. And we decided to either present the income shape or not present the income shape to try to understand what this income shape does to choices as well. And this was within subjects. So the order was randomized. So some participants saw the fact sheets first without income shape and some saw it first with the income shape. So why did we decide for treatments? So we have these 2 Treasury treatments in there because the Treasury actually was unsure whether people prefer information given in graphs or tables. We also wanted to test a simpler fact sheet. So our simpler fact sheet was basically the text-only treatment, where we, as said, rather simply describe the information given in the other fact sheets. And then we said, okay, this product rating seems very salient. What if we make it less salient? So we basically deleted the actual number and just describe how these products insure the participant for the different types of risks. So this is an example of the Treasury Table fact sheet for product A, so the lifetime annuity. As you can see, this is all for a purchase price of 100,000 Australian dollars. Excuse me. And you can see that, so the first information item is set, average annual income, $5,200. So in this fact sheet on the left side, in the left column, we can also see the name of the information item and then what it, again, a description of what it actually means. And then this is what I meant with the saliency of the product rating. You can see that this product rating is actually stated 3 times on this fact sheet with a rather, well, big graph of saying, okay, this product is rated a 7. That means it's on the very right of the scale for average income. So average income is rather secure. Again, you have product rating is 7. And in the text, you can read this product is rated 7 because. And then you have this description that says, okay, it provides a consistent income level, it provides income for life, there's no impact of downturns in the share market on income. Income is CPI indexed, so payments will increase annually in line with inflation, and payment is guaranteed if the fund becomes insolvent. The third information item then is the potential income shape, and in this case it's just one line because this is a immediate lifetime annuity that is inflation indexed. And then below you can see this table that should give the participant, well, in the first two columns, the access to capital. So if the consumer decides to sell the product when they are age 70, they would still get $83,330 back. And in the third column, you can see the death benefit. So if the person dies at age 75, the estate would still get $100,000. And we included at the bottom of this page this little qualifier that says the product rating calculation and the access to capital and death benefit amounts are determined by government regulation. And we did so because we also did focus groups, and people were worried in those where we didn't have this qualifier that this product rating and this fact sheet was basically just an advertisement material, and well, people didn't trust this product rating basically. So this is the Treasury Graph for the same product. So the first three information items are the same, and then you can see that this is the graph. So the solid line is the next to capital, and then the dashed line is death benefit. This is the text-only treatment. It immediately is apparent that this is way less colorful. And we basically, so in the product rating, it now only says the product is rated 7 under mismeasure 4-7, which was the same sentence as in the treatments before. But now we basically moved these descriptions to the potential income shape. And we also, in the access to capital and death benefit, as said before, we mainly described, okay, if you stop using your product before age 85, you will get back some of the purchase price. The amount paid depends on your age and is determined by government regulation. And if you stop using your product at or after age 85, you will get nothing back. And then in the death benefit, well, it becomes a bit more complex because you have these, well, we have more cutoff points. So if you die before age 76, the income payments stop and the purchase price will be paid to your estate. If you die between age 76 and age 85, the income payments stop and some money will be paid to your estate. And if you died at or after age 85, the income payments stop and no money will be paid to your estate. And then we have this product security treatment, where I said before. So we basically got rid of this very salient product rating graph and measure. So we only say this product provides a consistent income level, etc. Which is, as I said before, it's the same description as in the product security text, but we just got rid of the product rating. So what do we find on aggregate? And this is quite interesting. We find that consumer actually chose the annuity ABP bundled product 34% of the time, and the annuity is 33% of the time. And basically, in total contrast to what is happening in the real world, the account-based pension was actually least preferred. Well, what is important to note here is that we assume, well, first of all, we assume the distribution network away, right? So two of these products are not even on the market, being the most preferred, the annuity ABP and the ABP deferred annuity. We also basically force people to think about these things. We give them standardized information, so that might be one reason. But we also get rid of this default, well, the default system or setting that the ABP is more or less the default. And we know from various studies that people stick to defaults. If we now look at per treatment choices, we see one very interesting finding is that the text-only treatment group, or people in the text-only treatment group, chose relatively differently from the other three treatment groups, which is not that apparent if you look at the most preferred, so the bolded numbers. That's still 32%. It's around the same for the annuity ABP in most groups. But you can see that the difference to the annuity between the text-only group and the other three groups, the percentage is already relatively large. And what is most interesting is that in the text-only group, participants, well, least preferred the ABPDA, which is surprising, or well, that is not, so that percentage is still relatively similar to the percentage for the ABPDA in the other three treatment groups. But what is very interesting is that the ABP is actually preferred 21% of the times, while in the other group, it's half the, it's half the percentage for participants in the Treasury Table group, and it's actually only or 3 times as much as in the for participants in the Treasury Graph and the product security. So what drives these results? And I said before, we have a bunch of other variables that we try to measure. The first one being understanding or knowledge about information items. So what we have after these choices is a quiz about how, well, with 5 questions, where we wanted to know how well people understand these information items. So the first question was whether the annual income actually gives you the income of the first year, with the answer obviously being no. 65% of the people knew the correct answer, while 8% stated that they don't know, and the remainder actually provided the wrong answer. A second question was whether the product rating, so the higher the product rating, does that mean that the income is also more secure? Of course, we could not ask these questions to people in the product security treatment group because there was no product rating, or at least there was no number. So for the 902 participants in the other 3 treatment group, 68% answered correctly here, and 7% said that they didn't know. Then we had a question on the product rating again, this time for all participant groups, because this was on what type of risks the product rating actually provides information on. And we wanted to know whether people knew that it was market, inflation, and longevity risk. So 57% knew, while the percentage now of people that actively said they don't know is also higher than in the other 2 questions. So we have 15% of people that actively said they don't know. Now we come to the, well, the biggest loser. And this question was on, well, whether people understood that access to capital doesn't mean that they can just dip into their assets while still having the product. So they really needed to sell the product, and for the information of access to capital being valid for them. So only 33% understood this difference, and 11% of people said they don't know to this question. So it seems that access to capital is it's basically a misnomer. So people do not, as said before, people do not understand that it's just really liquidizing the whole product and not assets within the product. And then last but not least, we had a question whether the death benefit is always the same as the access to capital, and 80% of people knew the answer to that, and 13% said they don't know. So I'll now provide you information on the 4 questions that were given to all participants. And out of these 4 questions, participants on average answered 2.35 questions correctly. 7% of people answered no question correctly. 14% had 1 correct answer, 30% 2, 33% 3, and 50% had all 4 questions correct. This graph now shows you regression coefficients, where we had, so this shows you the result of 5 regressions, where we basically just regress the treatments on information item knowledge, and then the 4 different product knowledges. The Treasury Table treatment group is here, the baseline. So what this graph shows you is that there seems to be that, for example, compared to the Treasury Table, participants in the Treasury Graph seem to understand the products less. You can see the 95% confidence intervals, so you can see that it's statistically significant for the knowledge for annuity, the knowledge for the ABP-DA, and the knowledge for the ABP. While the decrease in knowledge for, or the comparative decrease in knowledge for the annuity ABP is not significant, as is the increase in information item knowledge is also not significant. The text only seems to slightly increase product knowledge, but only for 2 of the products compared to the Treasury Table treatment. And people in the, or participants in the product security treatment seem to, well, the direction is negative, but it's again not statistically significant. Well, in this group, interestingly, this is the only group for which comparatively information item knowledge is higher, statistically significant. I mean, you can, well, it's just statistically significant. We also, as I said before, we have product perceptions. So what do I mean by this? We asked people whether they actually understood, so what they thought, how well they understood the different products. And this is also on risk and control. So we regress these perceptions on fact sheet type, information item knowledge, product knowledge, graph literacy, and superannuation knowledge. So we also control for gender, for age, for having a relationship, for having a progressed motive, for financial risk preferences, for financial literacy, numeracy, being eligible for full or part age pension, and being a member of a DC pension plan. These are now, so these are 12 different regressions. So I try to summarize our findings here. For perceived understandings, we didn't find a difference in treatment, so in fact sheets. What we did find is that the number of don't knows for information item knowledge is negatively related to perceived understanding, and product knowledge is positively correlated with perceived understanding, which is sensible. DC members also seem to think that they understand the products more, and compared to DB members, which might be, so this might be just due because DC members might need to actually think more about retirement income products than DB members. Being eligible for full or part age pension is negatively correlated for the ABP, deferred annuity, and an ABP. This is only significant at the 5%. So on perceptions of risk, so here we do find effects between treatments. And we find that the Treasury graph is negatively correlated with perceived risk of annuity ABP and ABP-DA. We also find that the text-only treatment is positively correlated with perceived risk of annuity and annuity ABP. This might also be one of the reasons why in this text-only treatment, many participants did not like the annuity as much as in the other groups, because they perceive the risk of the annuity to be higher than in other groups. Product knowledge is negatively correlated with perceived risk of all products, except for the ABP-DA. And numeracy is also negatively correlated with perceived risk of, but only for the products annuity and annuity ABP. So it seems that people that know more also understand that these annuitized products have less risk. On perceived control, so people in the text-only group compared to the Treasury Table group seem to think that they have more control with the account-based pension. And people in the product security group also think that they are more control with the ABP and the deferred annuity. So information item knowledge and the number of don't knows for information item knowledge actually are negatively correlated with perceived controls for all products. And the number of don't knows for financial literacy is also negatively correlated with perceived control. So it seems that if you are either confused or actively think that you do not know things of financial knowledge, but also information item knowledge, you also think that you have less control over this, over the products. And men are generally more likely to perceive control of the account-based patient to be higher than women. So we now look at the actual impact of the information items on product choice. We do so by with a logit model, where we basically regress. So we take the differences between the two alternatives that in each pair people had to choose between, and we take the difference between the annual income, the product rating, and the access to capital between those products. We also take the difference between the perceived understanding, risk, and control between those products and between the product knowledge, and regress that on the likelihood to choose the left product, so to speak. We also add a with income shaped dummy and an information item knowledge dummy, and we also control for several covariates, so male, age, again having a long-term relationship, having a bequest motive, financial risk preference, financial literacy, numeracy, being eligible for full or part age pension, and being a member of a DC pension plan. So these are the, I'm just showing you the most interesting part of the regression. So we find that across all treatment groups, the annual income is positively related with choice. It's not that surprising. So the more money you get, the more likely you prefer the product. So product rating is also positively correlated with choice. What is interesting here to note is that in this Treasury Table and Treasury Graph groups, the coefficient is higher than in the other two groups. We think that this is due to the fact that this product rating is so salient in these two treatment groups. But still, even if we do not have the actual number of the product rating, for example, in the product security group, we still have an effect of the product rating. So these descriptions still seem to get the information across, so to speak. Then if we go to perceived understanding, so in all groups except for the Treasury Table groups, we find that, well, if you think or if you perceive that you understand the product, you're also more likely to choose it, which is sensible, and which also seems to, well, at least it's an indication that people have tried to think about these things and that they also did well or chose to their best ability, so to speak. Similarly, so the higher you, the riskier you perceive a product, the less likely you are to choose. And this is statistically significant in all but the product security group. And then we have the perception of control of the product. So the more control you have, or the more control you think you have over a product, the more likely you also are to choose that product. So to conclude, in general, so we find that the annuity and the annuity ABP bundled products are preferred in the experiment, in contrast to revealed preferences, what we actually find in the market. But again, so the annuity ABP, for example, is a product that is not on the market currently. And as said before, so we assume away the distribution network of retirement income products in this experiment. And we also do not have this clear default effect that most people, most pension funds offer an ABP product as the standard product. Then we find that the fact sheets have an impact on product knowledge and perceptions of risk and control. It seems that the text-only treatment, well, improves product knowledge, but it actually also increases, for example, that people think that the annuity is risky, and that might lead then again to less choice or less insurance against longevity risk. As said before, this product rating impacts choice, but it's dependent on salience. So if people are basically, well, as I said, if this product rating, this number is 3 times on the fact sheet, it's very salient. Even if the actual number is not on the page and the description is there, it impacts choice, but it's less effective. So what we think is that these fact sheets really need to be carefully designed, so it's not to still get the important information across, but also not to make products appear more risky than they are, for example. Perceptions, we think so because perceptions actually are important for choice. So if fact sheets have an impact on the perception of risk, and that in turn has an impact on choice, then yeah, we need to think about how these fact sheets impact perceptions. In a follow-up experiment, we are thinking of testing, well, at least one or maybe one more treatment, where we indeed, so far we have deleted the number, but what if we delete the risk description? So really how far the products are insuring against 3 different risks. What if we delete that? Is the product rating then still a salient or not? And well, actually just before this presentation, we were also thinking maybe we should, well, maybe this product rating is important, but then people need less information on access to capital, or because access to capital, at least it needs to be reframed in a way that people understand it better. And they don't think this is meant for general liquidity of the assets, but really just you sell the product altogether. And then, of course, this is an online experiment. So what if these fact sheets would be introduced in the field? Would they affect decision making, or would, as I said before, so would these defaults still stick? And even though people theoretically have the opportunity to get these standardized, simplified fact sheets, they don't use them, or they don't use them in the manner the Treasury wants them to be used. So I'm now looking forward to your feedback and questions.